Hi again. Welcome to another lecture on C programming. In today's video, we're gonna talk about function. So this is very important topic, guys. We have already discussed about a lot of C programming concepts like conditional statements, looping, go-to statement, break statement, continue statement, and also we have discussed a lot of programs. Now it's time to understand the most important concept in C programming is that function. So what is a function in C programming? So let's understand this by an example. Suppose you have a bike and you want to modify it by your bike. So you have given your bike in the garage and the garage mechanic modified your bike and now your bike is an electric bike. Suppose in that way. So here the garage is basically a function where your bike takes as an argument your old bike and your new bike is basically the output of your garage. So here garage is behaves like a function. So same way functions are basically used to work for some specific tasks and it takes some inputs and it will give you some desirable output. Okay, so now let's talk more about functions. So here, now understand what is function definition. That means if you see a function, that means what? You have already used functions in C programming like main function, printf, scanf, and square root function. So here, these all functions are predefined functions. But now we're going to learn about user defined functions, and also we always use one function in our C programming, that is main function, guys. So let's understand what is actually the function definition. Okay, so here when you write any variable name, same way we have to write a function name. When you define any function, you have to write its name. So the writing name, we have to follow some rules like the name of identifiers. Okay, same way we can just write the function name. And now we're going to see that here there is a return type in that function name. That means what? That means that function returns some value. Suppose our in garage problem, our garage return a new bike. So that modified bike, so that is basically the return type. Which type of bike? So here we have data types like integer, character, and float. Same way any other data types. So basically this return type tells that this function will return some value like 0, 1, anything. Okay, so that is basically a return type. And here we just gonna replace that return type with data types like int. Suppose int function name, that means this function will return some value. And every time when you write a return type, then return statement, that is a return statement of that function, will return only single one value or an expression. We will discuss it later. Now this is the third part of this function, that is the argument of the function, guys. So argument is something like an input. Okay, so when you give your old bike in a garage, so that is basically your argument. And also you want suppose write two arguments, three arguments. So this is, there is no any upper limit that how many arguments you put inside that function, so it is up to you, but it will always return only single value or an expression. And also here that argument is a their type, we have to write argument type, it is integer, character, or anything. And also we have to write argument name as a variable name. Okay, and after that we can see that here this part, in this part we can see this is a block of a function, that means the scope of that function. So inside that scope we will write the actual code, that is body of code. Suppose we want to add two numbers, So what we will do, we will just write a two number addition program inside this function. So this is all about the function definition, guys. Now I'm just going to tell you that inside the function name we have a lot of things to do. Okay, so we have function declaration, we have a function call, and also that is function definition. So we will discuss it one by one, okay, with the help of Visual Studio Code Guide. So I'm just going to open a VS Code. So first of all, we will just create a file name. If you don't know how to create a file name inside a Visual Studio Code, just click here and just write a file name. Suppose I'm just going to write here function1.c and .c for C file extension. Okay, so here we will see the different part of functions. So there are three parts. First is function declaration. Sorry, function declaration, or you can say it as a prototype. That means which type of function. Okay, prototype. Like in a variable, we declare it, we initialize it, and here this is a function call when we want to call that function, and then after we have function definition, which I have already discussed. Function definition. So let's see by some example. So here we have to write a program of adding two numbers with the help of function. Okay, so I'm just going to write a C program. First, include a header file, a studio.h for printf and scanf. Okay, and after that I'm just going to write our main function, and this is a block of main function, and don't forget to write return 0. So suppose you want to write a function of adding two numbers. So in any function we first declare it and we just write a prototype. So how can we write that? So for function declaration we will write in this way. So here I'm just going to write it. Okay, so here first we will write return type, same way as and also we just write a function name, and here we just write argument 1, argument 2. So it totally depends upon our program, and after that we have to write a semicolon. So that is basically the way of writing function declaration or function prototype. Suppose we want to add two numbers. So what is the prototype of that number? And we have an integer value. So if you will add two integer, it will give basically an integer. So here the return type of this function is int, and I'm just going to write a function name add is your function name, and we want to add two numbers. So I'm just going to write int n1 comma int n2 and put a semicolon, and this is your function declaration. So in this way you can declare a function. Okay, declaration. And now inside that main function, this is the first part. Now function call. So basically in function call we call that function. Suppose you have create a function, you have defined it, and we just want to call that function. We don't need to write the actual function program inside that main function or any other function. So here we just call that function. Okay, suppose we want to take two variables, int a is equal to 4 comma b is equal to 19. Okay, so that is so here we have two variables, int a is equal to 4 and b is equal to 19, and we want to call the add function. Okay, so we just write a function name like as you have written inside the function declaration. So the function name is same, and which value you want to pass inside that function name, that is very important. And here we just basically pass the value of the data Suppose you pass here int that is a and b. So this is basically your argument, and we generally pass that value, not actual address of that variable. So this is basically the copy of that data. So here we just pass the value 4 and 90, not the actual variable a. Okay, understand in this way. And suppose our function returns some data, so it is basically here you can see that an integer. So if this function returns some data, so you have to store that data, that value, inside some variable. So for that I am just declaring another variable c and just put the value 0 there. So I am storing the actual addition of that two numbers and store it inside that value, the variable c. Now I'm just going to print that value, that is printf inside %d. Okay, the and after addition. Okay, and here you can see that the value is c right now. So you have, okay, so you basically declare the function, the prototype of function, and also you have call. Okay, so you just call this function here. Now it's time to define the function, that is the function definition. So that is third part, function definition. So here we actually write the actual code of that function. Okay, so how can we write? We will just write as here the function in this way. First we're gonna write a return type. After that we just write our function name, like here int add, and same way we will pass argument, suppose n1 comma int n2, and here we have to write a block. So that block is very important. Okay, this is basically the scope of any variable inside that function, the life of that variable, that is known as local variable. Okay, so here you can see that the first part is completed as function prototype, second part here the function call, and the third part is the function definition. Okay, if you don't write anything rather than this, suppose you don't define the function, so it will give you a compilation error. So here, since our function returns some data, so here it is very simple. I'm just going to take another variable int c and add n1 plus n2 and return the data c. So here you can see that uh, and also this c, that c variable is different from this c variable. Why? Don't confuse between them, because this is the local variable of this main function and this c is the local variable of this add function. And when this variable creates inside this add function, same way after this block it will, okay, so we cannot use that c function inside that main function. So the life of this c function inside this add block only. Okay, so this is known as a local variable. You can declare another variable here also, like d e f. Okay, so now I'm just going to run this c program. So first statement is basically the declaration of c, and also we just write a program, simple program. And another statement, that is the return statement, that is very important. So here you can see that we use a return tab and integer int. So why we have to return an integer value? So I'm just going to return c as an integer. Also you just write here an expression to return. I'm just going to save this and run this c program. So we have different kind of data, that is the value of a is 4 and the value of b is 90. So after executing this program, you can see that the actual output of the program is a 94. Okay, so here, okay, so after addition you can see that the value is 94. Now understand that return statement. Okay, so that return statement basically returns an expression or a single value. So it will return, this is basically an expression, so it will return also an expression. So you can write in this way also. So here you can see that before this, okay, so n1 plus l2, so it is basically see, you can see that it will give an error. So here So if this is an expression, you just need to write in this way. That means the compiler will not confuse that these are two different data. Again run this C program, then after addition it is 94. So you cannot return two value at a time. If you want to return, so it has to return an expression or a single value. Either you have returned a single value integer C, either you have just returned, you have to return an expression. Okay, so this is all about a return type of a function. And here what should be the return type? Suppose our function does not want to return anything, so what we have to write? So for that we have to just write a void function. So void function basically returns nothing. Okay, so if this function returns nothing, so we have to just write here uh, there is no any return statement inside that main function, add function. I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. After addition, the value is n1 plus n2. Now, here, since this function returns nothing, so we don't need to store that value anywhere. Okay, so here, this is also a program of adding two number without returning any value. Since this function returns nothing, so I have used a return type that is void. So it is also 94. It is very simple. Now again I'm going to ask you, can we write a function without argument? Yes, you can write. You can write any function without argument. Suppose you want to write just write here another function that is void print void print. So this is basically a function. I'm just going to call it here a print function. So what basically it do here? So I'm just going to write a function as void print. So in this function, suppose you want to write anything, printf, it is a new function. Anything you want to just write, and I'm just gonna save this and run this C program. So you can see that it is saying that it is a new function and also the 94 that value. Okay, so now you can understand. You can easily write a function without arguments. Also, the function return type may be void, integer, anyone. It depends on your requirements. If this function returns nothing, that it will not store in value anywhere. And now I'm just gonna tell you that not if you don't want to declare a function here, so how can you just use that function? So if you don't want to declare the function and define it, so you can do this both things together in this way. If you write the function definition before printf, before the main function, you then need to write a function declaration or prototype. So I'm just going to save this and just going to change some value that which makes some program, and again run this C program. So it is 904 and it is a new function. Hope you understand. So this is the way basically we can use. Okay, so this is all about today's lecture, guys. What is a function, what is a return type of function, and how basically the return statement works. Either a return statement returns a single value or it may return an a single expression. Okay, it will not return more than one single value. And here also I'm just going to mention new thing, that is the scope of the variable: local variable, global variable. Suppose you want to declare a variable outside from the main function, that variable is known as the local variable. You just write here glb al. Okay, so I'm just glbl, that is a global variable. I just want to write value of that global variable 50. Okay, and here in this function you just write another data, that is glbl is equal to 60, 90, and here again you're gonna print that value inside the function as %d comma glbl. So here it will print every time a single value. Here also I'm just going to write that data and just going to change the value 100. and here 1000 and just print. Okay, and save this C program and run this. So here you can see that 1000 first time when you call a function. After calling, it will print after addition, that is 90, and that is okay. So I'm just gonna just give a backslash and write inside main function. Okay, inside which function, that print function, and here this is inside add function. Okay, so here inside yeah, inside this function. Okay, so here I'm just gonna write inside add function. Okay, and here save this C program and run this. So here inside the main function, okay, not function, it's a function. That value is 1000. After addition, it is 904. Inside that add function, it is 90. Inside the print function, 100, and it is a new function. What's you gonna learn from that? So you can see that here each time since you declare a variable here, understand, since you have declared a variable outside from the main function and you can change that variable inside any function, you just change that value inside a add function and you can see that value is 90. When you're going to change this function inside printf print function, so it will change a new value that is 100, and again you're going to change that value inside the main function, it will change the value that is 1000, but the previous value was 50. Now can you again declare that variable inside the add function? So yes, you can. And also I'm just gonna mention one thing. Suppose you just don't want to update this value. Okay, so which value that basically prints here and here. So you're gonna just tell me what is the next value of GLBL every time. So here we're just gonna change that value, that is 1000 before calling the function. So here you can see that every value is 1000. Why? Because since these values are since this variable declares globally, so that is we can change that value anywhere, and we just change that value inside the main function and it will change the actual value of that global variable. Okay, so why this value change here and here also? And suppose you want to declare that variable has int glbl again 90. Okay, and just gonna write here, so just is it that value basically is the that value become, okay, I'm just gonna write a larger number to make some difference. So here I'm just gonna change that value as 19, also declare it. So now you're gonna tell me what is the output of glbl. Okay, so you can see that the only one single value is inside the add function, the value of glbl is 19, but when you talk about a main function and print function, it is still 50,000. Why? Because when you have two different kind of variables, suppose we have a same name of a global variable as a local variable. So here this glbl is a local variable of add function. So why, when we're going to change the value of this glbl inside that add function, it will not change the value of this glbl inside the print function and also not inside the main function. First thing is that you have to notice. Another thing is that, so is that suppose we have two different kinds of variables. So here you can see that there is a value that is glbl is 90 and another value of so which value this will print? So it will print obviously its local variable. Okay, so it will give the higher priority to its local variable, not to the global variable. So this is all about the local variable and global variable, guys. So the global variable means you can use that variable outside from any function, you can change that value, and a local variable means it is only applicable inside that function, and the life of that variable is only from this. So it is a local variable and this is your global variable. So when you just call the add function, you can see that that n1 and n2 will give you the output. It will not actually change the value of a and b. It will not change the actual value of a and b, but it will pass that value. So it is also known as call by value. And we will discuss later a call by reference, and also we will talk about recursion, guys. And also, if you like the video on C programming, so please do subscribe the channel and share this video with your friends. Also, I'm just going to mention one thing, one important thing, that we're going to start a new batch on Python programming and data structures and Java programming. So if you're really interested to learn this kind of technology, so you're just gonna tell your friends. Also, you just share this channel with your friends, and also you're gonna learn. Okay, thank you and thanks for watching. Please do subscribe the channel.